Hello and welcome to another of these after-hour conversations here at the Power of 50. Today has been field service, and it has been, as always with the Power of 50, long, insightful, lots of conversations. My throat's getting dry. I don't know about yours, Jeff.
Just a bit.
But I'm going to draw one last bit of insights out of my experts who kindly are sharing and distilling a day's worth of insight. But before we go any further, Jeff, just tell the people at home who you are, where you're from, and then we'll dive into a bit of a conversation.
Yeah, Jeff Nieze, Vice President of Solution Strategy with Baxter Planning. We hosted a table today that talked about AI in the service supply chain. So how do we better predict, how do we better optimize, and how do we better automate? And so it was a fantastic discussion with 50 people, Power of 50.
Yeah. Your colleague Andreas did a great summary towards the end of the day. I got to the point where I thought, well, let's let the people who have been talking to everyone all day do my job. Always make my life easier. But one of the things I thought was lovely that he said was, you guys are doing too good a job. Tell me what your takeaways were, though, from the great conversations that you've been having. What was the bit that really stood out? What was the thing you kept hearing over and over?
Yeah, absolutely. And so and it was mentioned earlier in the conversations, while we had so many different business verticals, industry verticals represented, there was a really core set of common challenges that were represented. And the one thing that was reassuring for us as Baxter Planning, we've kind of looked at AI as and I used AI in the general sense, as kind of a method to support outcomes or business resolution. And I think the reassuring part to me and the takeaway is everybody looked at it the same way.
Yeah.
You know, AI for the sake of AI doesn't make sense.
No.
Right? What are you trying to solve? What is the value you're trying to drive? And then let's work on what's the proper solution.
Yes.
It was interesting. Some of the conversations people were talking about kind of pie in the sky. I really want to do this. And I'm like, well, that's great. We don't need AI to do that. We could do that for you today.
Yeah.
Right? So it was really, it was fun.
And I think this has come out in a lot of the after-hours conversations as well. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I've got a sense that there's been a bit of a tipping point in terms of not just AI, but also the general digital transformation conversation, where we've stopped talking about the technology necessarily, and we're now talking about the how. Rather than the why, why are we going to put AI? What does it do? You know, It's now, well, how am I going to solve this problem with the tools that are here? Are you getting that feeling as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of the attendees in part of our discussion, they started down the other side where the company said, well, let's figure out what use cases we are that AI can support. And they said, well, we looked through them, but there were only two, but we had to look at it the other way.
Yeah.
What is our outcome? What is our objective? And then what is the capabilities? Because 48 of the 50 really didn't need AI to support what they wanted to do.
Yeah. And then it's engineering the solution that makes sense for the problem that we're trying to solve. Obviously, it's a very European accent you have there, Jeff, from that Western Europe in America. It'd be remiss of me not to pick on that knowledge there, because obviously, two different feet and two different sides of the Atlantic. Understanding the American market versus the European market, I've worked in both as well. There are different challenges. How are you seeing the adoption rates in terms of technologies on either side of the Atlantic?
I think it's been very similar.
Yeah.
Honestly, very similar. Everybody, as we said, even across the business verticals or the industry verticals we talked to, very similar challenges.
Yeah.
Right? So very similar challenges, still a desire to drive value and drive desired outcomes. And so that is the core focus, and the adoption, comes after. It was a great conversation today around solution adoption, and I think it was spot on.
Yeah. And it's interesting that all of the different industry verticals we've seen today, I see it same in time. It's 85-90% of the challenges are the same, and then there's those nuanced understandings, and I think that's been reflected in your conversations. Your final takeaway. Give me your final thought that you would like the folks at home to take away.
Final thought. I love this format. This is the first time, as I said, I've been involved in Copperberg. This is a much more intimate format. The opportunity to build relationships, maybe even in some verticals we don't support, but meeting a lot of great people with a lot of great ideas. And that's what we're seeing in the industry as well is, some of these concepts actually transcend verticals.
Yes.
And become
yes.
really important and critical for people to think outside the box in the vertical they're in.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Jeff, thank you ever so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank
Real
you, Kris.
pleasure. Thank you.